welcome back. I'm Taryn.
And I'm Sieglinde. Welcome to another episode of Art Sparks with Taryn and Sieglinde, short bursts of conversation about art.
So today, as you can see, we have a special episode. We have the Art Sparks visit. Who would we have today? Come on, Sieglinde.
Yes, we have an Art Spark guest today, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Anastasia Faiella. Hi, Anastasia. Welcome.
And hi, ladies.
Anastasia is a very accomplished artist, as you can see at the gigantic art mural she created in her own home behind her. Other than that, she's a former dancer, a lover of international travel to inspiring places. She is a very high-end, very successful interior designer in San Francisco, and she graduated with her Master in Fine Arts from UC Berkeley. Anastasia, we are so lucky to have you here. Talk about you and your work. What a treat.
Wow. It's an artist's dream to talk about themselves.
Well, perfect.
Exactly. Now, Anastasia, tell me, when did you decide to be an artist? What was the thing that made you decide?
Well, it's so interesting. I was thinking about this, and I don't think I ever thought to myself, I want to be an artist. I think I just came into the world as an artist, and it's just who I've been all my life. For me, it just was, I started ballet lessons when I was, I believe, 5. And that's where it started. And I just remember, being in the studio and hearing, learning not only about the technique of ballet but learning about classical music from, the age of 5. And so I think that's just, for me, I just came into the world as an artist, and that's just the way it is.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Oh,
and so
I don't know. I mean, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I was. Maybe life would have been a little bit more simpler if I had been a lawyer or a doctor, or because sorting yourself out as a creative person is quite challenging. So.
Well, we all have that moment from time to time where we think, wouldn't it be easier if I was less of a creative person with this drive to create all the time?
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of drive to create, so you say it really started in when you were doing ballet, but so from there to the work that you are creating today. So what inspires you to create, or how has that evolved?
Well, that's also a very good question. And, I danced for many years quite seriously until I was about age 19. And I was majoring at dance in a college on the East Coast. And it became very overwhelming to me, because all of a sudden the reality of what I was doing was like right up in front of me. Like my dance teachers were professional dancers, and they were like, this is not a glamorous life. We all work 5 other jobs. We don't get paid for, so I was so young. I think about it. I was like 18 years old. Off on this adventure, and I was financing my education on my own, and it was a private college. And so I kind of, after a year and a half, I pulled out. I went back to Minnesota, and I just quit dancing.
Wow.
For like I just quit. And it was, my whole self-identity was wrapped up into myself as a dancer. And so it was a very difficult time. And, but eventually I got a degree in art history and came to California, and a boyfriend said, you should take a painting class here. I found this painting class. It was like a piece of paper for this painting class. And I went and signed up for that painting class because, you know, I was just always saying, I need to do something creative. I don't know what to do. And that was really it. And I think I was about 27 years old. So that's when I found the visual art. And as you both know, there's so many facets to learning about the visual art. You know, there's so many different mediums. So then I probably spent about 4 to 5 years just like, I didn't do a BFA. I don't have a BFA. So I learned about the visual arts through extension classes here in the Bay Area. And I was quite fortunate to do that because all of the teachers teaching extension classes in the Bay Area are graduated MFA students from really great schools. And they're amazing artists. So I was taking classes with all these really cool people. I took printmaking, I took color theory. I mean, like, I did everything. And I was doing this after I would get off work. I was working full time at the San Francisco Design Center. And oftentimes, you know, I would ride my bike to a BART station, to get on the BART, to go to the East Bay to do a painting class. And finally, I just had a teacher. This was probably after about, 6 years of these just creating art. And she said, you got to get an MFA. You got to like take this to the next level because, you know, this is the essence of who you are and you need to keep pushing this. So I was like, wow, she's like crazy. I was like, graduate school. I mean, I really got my undergraduate degree. You know, I am not an academic in any way at all. So, but I, you know, she was kind of like a mentor and I took her seriously. And this was the time when you would put slides in a carousel.
Yes, I remember that.
And then you would mail your carousel to different universities. And I remember being on campus at the University of San Francisco, trying to find where I'm supposed to drop my thing
carousel.
off. Yeah. And I got a call from my sister, which I found out that my father was dying.
Oh no.
And I was like, but I can't leave now. I have to deliver this carousel. And I was so like, you know, I have to do this, you know, and it was just such a crazy time. And somehow I got into a couple schools. I got into CCA and I got waitlisted at Berkeley. And then eventually I got a spot at Berkeley. And I think, you know, all of that time, again, you know, it was never, like I said, like I had some goal, really. It was just that I was always in it. And I just, like, it's like I just kept needing to do it. Like, I needed to do that printmaking class. And then after that, I was like, I need to do it again because I want to keep experimenting. And I was so, like, into the process and the materials and the colors and just creating things that made me happy. And so it was kind of like this escape from your regular life, you know. And so that's kind of that, you know. I think getting into graduate school is a whole nother layer. It's a whole nother story of how you learn about being an artist, and I'm happy to chat about that if you want me to.
From that starting to what you're doing right now, it must be a long journey. How did you end up doing what you like best, or what is it you like best, and how do you took from one to another?
Well, I mean, you know, I'll answer that question in regards to just kind of life in general. So, you know, I think when I came to California, I was lost. and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I didn't want to be in Minnesota anymore. I don't know if you've ever spent time in Minnesota, but it gets very cold there in the winters. But it was more like a personal journey, to come to California and just to continue to learn about myself as a person. And the art was a vehicle for me to continue that journey. It was learning about myself through art making. And, San Francisco is a very expensive place. So I was always working 2 or 3 jobs and, running around just trying to survive. And I don't feel like I ever had the luxury to let myself think about, what does my art mean to me? What is my purpose? That's not the way my life was. My life was, I had to figure out how to pay my rent. I had to figure out how to get from A to Z. And that's how I was going to get around. Basic things. How do I get my groceries from the store back to my apartment when you don't have a car? And, these basic things of life. So,
at the same time, it feels like those basic things of life did make it into your artwork, because you mentioned before we start recording that the mural behind you is actually kind of a visual journal of your life with your now husband. And then we've spoken before that a lot of your work is based on stream of consciousness writing. So it's something that comes through you in your art. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I think the whole writing thing came about in graduate school. So I had a little office studio, and I started writing on my walls it was kind of a reaction to art criticism and theory, which was shoved down my throat in graduate school. And I should really be careful, because we'll see this video, but it was just so I'm like, what is this stuff? I couldn't connect to it, because it just was so, it felt so lofty. Who gets to sit around and think about this stuff? I don't know. But on a certain level, if you do, just really get into reading some of these things, it, can be interesting. But anyway, so I just kind of started writing on my walls in this little studio, because I was also basically kind of going crazy from these critiques in my studios, and people basically trashing me as an artist. And I guess that's what you do to each other in graduate school.
It's part of graduate school.
And so I also took every time at the end of a crit, the teacher who was overseeing the crit would then rate you and give you their feedback on these forms. So I would always read these forms, and I would just be like, okay, whatever. This is all so subjective, right? So I photocopied all of them, and I threw them on the floor in the studio. So after I wrote on all the walls, I can probably find the video. I did a performance art piece in there where I was upside down, pushing this thing around on all these. And I basically lost my mind. But anyway, so when I got a studio, maybe 6 years ago, so post-graduate school, I had now been out of graduate school for probably 10 years. Because, surprise, I had to have a job and support myself, which was the interior design. And so I got a little tiny corner with my first studio since graduate school. And I remember just thinking about those writing pieces. And I was like, wow, I wonder what would happen if I kind of picked up that concept and started doing it like on canvases or on paper, and then start to have a conversation with that body of work on actual, like on some different types of surfaces that could be moved around, you know, not just walls or whatever. So that's kind of how it came about. It started as a reaction to things that were happening. The writing was a way for me to deal with my anxiety during graduate school on these walls. And so anxiety, you know,
Wow.
was like a way to process my anxieties. So, you know, like in graduate school, like especially at Berkeley, it was a very conceptual program. And I, you know, then realized throughout the program that I'm a very process-based artist. And I couldn't really stand up for myself and say that at the time, because I thought that I was wrong. There was something wrong with me because I wasn't like everyone else doing all this, doing conceptual work. But, you know, it's not that you can, you know, it's through the process that I find the meaning in my work. And when Sieglinde, when you asked me that question, it's just a lovely question, because it made me think about, you know, anxiety and how I think that's, you know, it's interesting. You know, that's how my art worked for me. You know, how I would work with art. Anyway, so yeah, so then, you know, it's just having that space outside my house to go and think about my work as an artist, and not decorating someone's home or, you know, no work, no laundry, not what's for dinner. It was just this very
Just you and the work.
Yeah.
So one question. So for example, from that back then and right now, you still have the writings in your work.
Yeah.
No? Yes. And so what you're writing, is it the same thing that comes to you, or you want to say something, or what is that when you're writing it? What is it that you're writing?
Yeah. So initially, when I was doing the writing pieces, when I first started them in my studio, they would really be like I was trying to transition from my design work into my studio. So it would just be like I would start thinking of a memory of a place, or, you know, the weather. I would look out my studio window and see the clouds and how they were moving, or the sun, and how it was a beautiful day. And I would just start writing about that, and I would just kind of let myself go from there. And again, this is like, I'm kind of discovered this through this talk, which is anxiety. So that trying to let go or process the anxiety of my job and just be able to relax, you know, and just be with my art, you know. And so then as I continued to explore the writing, like from graphite on canvas and like oil on canvas, I would, you know, focus in on like, okay, these works on paper are about my travels to the south of France. And I remember being in a Picasso museum, and I remember the seagulls by the sea. And so some people might paint that visually, but I was painting it literally with words and from my memory. And so they started to become more focused. Mm-hmm. So at first they were just more kind of random thoughts and visions, and then I kind of started to really focus them to create a snapshot of a particular place or a memory. And like I did a painting that was about a big oak tree in my backyard where I grew up in Minnesota, and might sound kind of hokey, but my mom lived in the same house for 41 years, and my sister and I played in a giant oak tree. We had a tire swing. And that tire swing gave us so much joy, you know, and I was just, you know, thinking about that. So I started writing it in a painting, and those are the only words you can really see is big oak tree on the bottom of the painting.
This is so beautiful, because from everything you're sharing today, it sounds like your work really is like a visual diary. And you actually, we've talked about this before. You say, I'm not a conceptual artist, I'm a process-driven artist. And then I tell you, like, no, I think you are conceptual in your own right. But look what
I know, Sieglinde.
But look, you know, you just brought a whole new meaning to a picture is worth a picture is worth 1,000 words, because that is literally what you are executing. That's literally what you are doing. And then the other thing so that's the visual diary part with words, you know, but still creating an image with it. And then the other thing is that so much of what you share today is like, you say, I'm a process artist, right? Mm-hmm. I like the technique and the materials and working with them to bring out my message. But at the same time, you use that to process your memories, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. So it all comes together in such a beautiful way.
Oh, well, thank you, Sieglinde. I mean, I just appreciate you both being interested and the opportunity to talk about it, because it's rare.
Absolutely.
That, you know,
I do have one last question. So from those two premises, like, is there something particular that you would like people to take away when they see your work? Is there something like a message or something that you want to evoke within them?
Well, that's a really challenging question.
Sorry.
Because that's okay, because I think everybody is so different in how people look at the world and how they look at art. So everybody's going to take something different from the work. And some people will be attracted to it and some people won't, obviously. And, you know, it's really like, I don't know, maybe in some way they'll find beauty in all of the kind of messed up you know, how the layers become just this kind of strange pattern, and maybe they'll be intrigued to want to look a little deeper to see if they can find a word or two that they relate to, or maybe they'll be attracted to a title of one of the pieces and wonder what that is, and interpret for themselves what they see in the piece and in the title, and that maybe it just takes them to a different place, you know?
Yeah, that's like beautiful invitation. So when you were making with your hands the movements for the like the layers, you know, it's such a beautiful metaphor for life again, right? That everybody can sort of relate to. And then, you know, the titles give a hint on the new place where it can take them, but it's up to them to take the invitation or not. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sieglinde. This was so much fun, and I, you know, what can I say? I mean, one little last note is that I think these pieces also have a lot of, there's kind of a rhythm of repetition in the work. And that's something that I think is very, just kind of indicative of these pieces, you know, just kind of repeating something over and over again, and the abstraction that comes from doing that. And that's kind of very similar to training as a ballet dancer. You come in every day and you do the same warm-up pieces, you know, do them over and over again to warm your body up. And so I think I subconsciously have been doing that with my work as a visual artist, with these writing pieces.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really all comes full circle.
Well, if you hang in there long enough,
True.
eventually it will, because I've been at this for quite a long time. So.
But that's what also makes your work really well. It makes it personal. Now that you see it, you can see a lot of lines, but it's your life in there. It's your ideas,
Yes,
your
is.
experience.
Yes.
It's really, really personal. So you can see lines, but no, it's like, okay, now that I hear it, like, oh, it's so much more than just letters and words in it. It's experience and it's feelings and stories. So it's pretty nice, pretty interesting. I like, yes. So it's, yeah, they have to go and get a closer look to really
Taryn.
discover it. Yes. And I think with artists, we have to get all these different ingredients that we have from life, because we have,
yes.
That's what makes it like unique for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're coming up on time. So thank you, Anastasia, for joining us today. Thank you, Taryn, for co-hosting. And thank you out there for watching. And we like to invite you again to please like, subscribe. It really helps us to build our platform, and share with anybody else who you think might benefit from this wonderful, rare, open story that Anastasia just shared with us about her life and her work. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.